understand them so that we can take the advantage if we need. Because for an example, in our this Nico homes, we have so many varieties of people. Everyone is unique. Okay, so some are good in something, some are good in something. So it's like a correlation between them. We always help each other so that whatever the things that we have, we can share good things with others. Whatever the good things others has, they can share with others, and that's how the life goes on. So this chapter is about to understand what are the diversity that we have in both, okay, in the plants as well as in the animals. Okay, so let's continue. Each organism in this world, whether it's a plant or animal or a microorganisms, virus, bacteria, unicellular, eukaryotes, prokaryote, is a unique in itself. Uniqueness of this individual forms the basis we call diversity. Diversity is nothing but a variety basically. Okay, term biodiversity is a very concise form of biological diversity. We don't always tell about biological. It's understood that it's a biological diversity we are talking about, and this word was given by Walter G. Rosen in 1986. Sometimes this is comes in one marker, so we should be little aware of the name. Now the question comes, what is the meaning of biodiversity? Okay, so this is basically the definition of that. Biodiversity refers to the diverse or varied forms of living beings, which differs in what? In structure, appearance, external appearance, size, color, pattern, internal structure, nutrition, behavior, habitat, etc., etc., etc. All these are the characteristics based on which we can divide all these organisms. We can categorize them. If you see, there are approximately 1.8 million organisms exist. Okay, and now we may have more because this book was written some 10 years before. So in the 10 years, we would have come across something more, all of which are different from one another. Oh my God. That means we need to learn 1.8 million organisms? Oh my God, we start sweating. Okay. Just learning about the human itself, we need to study so much. Learning about 1.8 million organism. My God. It is one life is not sufficient enough. Okay, because the range in which all these microorganisms lies, that vary from microscopic, that means through micrometer, they are very small, micrometer, we cannot see from our naked eye, okay, to very blue whales, which is about 30 meter in length, 30 meter approximately, like your height will be hardly 1.5 meter, that means 15 dhriti are standing in a line, okay, lying down, head to toe, that must so much big. Redwood tree of California, 100 meter in height. Oh my God. So many big star organisms exist. Pine tree, okay, this is based on size. Pine tree can live thousands of years. We live 60 years, 70 years, while many insect mosquito live a very few days. Few live seconds also, bacterias. Okay, so diversity extend to habitat, habits, nutrition, forms of different organism. All these are the different differences in them. Okay, few of the present day living forms are evolved version of living beings that have existed on the earth from past so many years. Whatever the organism that we see currently, it has been evolved. Earlier we were not like that. Slowly with the time we get evolution. We will discuss more about evolution next year. Okay, so we are familiar with most of the commonly known animals and plants, but the fauna and flora, biota of inaccessible area, forest, mountains, depth are unexplored. So still we don't know many things. We only know few, because if you see our earth, okay, every single region of this earth we have not explored yet. There are many locations where we don't have accessibility, correct, we don't have that by air, we don't go, cannot go by sea because of some reason. Okay, Bermuda Triangle for an example, nobody knows what happens there, so we are not aware what kind of species exist there. So it has been calculated about 92% biota of the world is still unexplored. Oh my God, that means we know only 8%. 8% only and so much diversity. Imagine if you explore everything, how much diversity you will have. Isn't it? Such a beautiful nature around us. Getting? I'm asking. Any doubt?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. But sir, if they like take on organism and like learn more about it, but like that one organism is like has such a depth, sir. Like it's so complex. Only one organism.
Yes, yes, yes. So this is also like for an example, if you take this lizard, okay, if you understand the lizard itself, it is too much complex. That means you can spend your entire life learning lizard only. And there are like lizard, there are 1.8 million organisms are existing. Learning about all of them is a really like we cannot do in a one life. It is not possible. Okay, so that's why we need to figure out some method that how can do that, and we are going to learn that. Okay, so types of species diversity, what are the types that we have? Each community, if you talk, has a varieties of species, each community, some of which are rare while others are common. Thus no community consists of species which are present in equal abundance. Every species contains, okay, some are rare, some are more, like that. Now the following type of species diversity can be described. Point diversity, that what is the meaning of that? This is the diversity present on the smallest scale, diversity of microhabitat. In a very small amount this is present in the nature, very small amount. Okay, like in the entire world only at a few location in few region, that's it, done. Those we call point diversity. Another is the alpha diversity, also known as local diversity, right? Includes variety of organism local to particular habitat. Habitat means environment basically. So this kind of diversity existing only in a particular environment. Okay, so if that kind of environment is there, then you will get this. So it is only at a one location, for an example, but this can be at multiple locations in the world, but considering the same kind of habitat, particular habitat is there. Okay, now another thing is we call gamma diversity. What is gamma? It represents the diversity of larger units such as island, landscape, all these. The meaning of that, gamma diversity means on this island, this is the difference. For an example, European people, Asian people, this is on one island, this is on another island. They have the certain characteristic, they are certain characteristic. This is species different. If you see European people, they are little like their height is more than compared to Asian. So that means this species is different than this. Why? Because it's a completely different because of island, because of landscaping. Okay. Another is called last one epsilon diversity. It is also called regional diversity and include total diversity of a group of gamma diversity. Okay. The meaning of that is like in this also in a particular landscape you have a so many groups like in the if you see India. Okay, in the India itself if you see there are few are Karnataka people, few are Madhya Pradesh people, few are Kerala people. All these peoples they are on India itself, but they show the different regional diversity. That is the so in a one landscape itself it's a one kind of diversity. So in the world only one location, in the world few locations, correct? This is at a particular land, it is basically in that land in a different region, that kind of diversity. Clear? This is the species diversity that we are talking about.
Yes, sir.
Ah. Now, so all these are the examples. They are showing epsilon diversity like this. So single plant may be considered as a unit of alpha diversity, only single plant. Leaf of an area is a point diversity. Group of a plant occurring together as a gamma diversity. And the forest within which the plant are located is a epsilon diversity. Correct.
So
Another,
could you go a little down?
yes, what happened?
So like up.
Okay. Okay. Now the next thing comes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the next thing comes about Earth. Okay. So if you see about the Earth region, okay, our Earth, we know that this is our Earth. It looks like this. So varieties of life forms found on the particular region forms the biodiversity. Okay, on the Earth, basically everywhere life doesn't exist. Okay, only in a particular region. Now diverse life form tends to share a common environment and also affected by each other. Due to these interaction, a stable biotic community comprising of different species comes into existence. Okay, in recent time human activities like a deforestation, we know, hunting, pollution have played a crucial role in changing the balance of such communities. We know in the nature, like some 100 years before, if you go, correct, our nature was much balanced. Because of ill human activities, like this is few of them, the balance is disturbing, so the diversity is also changing. Indeed, the diversity in such communities affected by changing characteristic of land, water, climate, so on. For an example, legs of Asian bullfrog is regarded as a delicacy in Europe, especially France and US. Okay, to fulfill their growing demand, bullfrogs are exported from India and Bangladesh. About 80 million frogs are collected each year from rice fields in Bangladesh alone. They are sent to these countries for eating. Okay, while so many insect eating frogs removed from this ecosystem, they are removed basically because what the frog does in all these paddy things, they eat the insects. So the rice production is threatened due to this uncontrolled flourishing of insect population. See, if you disturb, if you change anything artificially in the environment, ecosystem disturbs. Various consumers of frog in the world wild, such as snake, prey, birds, are also affected because for them the food will not be available. Now the rough estimates show that there are about 10 million species on the planet Earth. 10 million. And at present we are aware of only 1 or 2 million of them. We don't know all of them. This is just a rough calculation. Okay, so the warm and humid tropical region of the earth between the tropic of Cancer. So if you see our earth is basically, this is the equator. Here we have the equator, then we have here tropic of Cancer, tropic of Capricorn. This region we call humid region. Then we get one more circle, Arctic and Antarctic circle. This we call cold region, and this is the ultra cold region basically. Okay, that's how our earth is divided into three parts. So if you talk about like this, warm and humid tropical region of the earth between the tropic of Cancer, which is this, and between the tropic of Capricorn has a rich diversity. In this region we see, because the temperature is suitable for the life, we see a lot of plants, animals, microorganism, and this region we call mega diversity region. See, this is what is shown. Okay, hotspot of biodiversity, you can see here. See here, there is not much. Red one is the too much hotspot of diversity. We are here. See, this is our India. This is called the region of the diversity of the planet Earth. More than half is concentrated in 12 countries only. More than half, only in 12 countries. Okay, there are more than, how many countries are there? Any idea? So more than, I think, some 300 countries are there. Out of that, 12 are only sufficient. Okay, they covers more than 50%. Now let's understand some scientific naming because,
300.
pardon?
So are they like 300 countries?
Yeah, there are more than, I don't remember the exact number. We can check. Okay.
So it can be around 200, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact number. Number of countries in the world. It shows 195. Uh, no, this is based on how many countries are there in the world in. So let's check. Yeah, it shows like 195.
So there are like 251 countries
Oh,
there,
that's
but like officially recognized ones are lesser than 200.
okay, 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 okay. Okay, yeah. So yeah, basically, so it's approximately 200, 250, and out of that, only you have 12 countries which is containing 50%, more than 50% diversity. Remember, when we are talking about diversity, it is not only humans. It contains the plants, it contains animals, it contains all varieties. Okay, so that's the reason. Now let's talk about little bit on the, now suppose if we would like to give them a name, because you can't give them the name like this na, rat, cat, bat, tiger. So all these, can we remember like a 1 million names like this? It's very difficult, isn't it? So then we need to decide some method. How do we name them? So that we call scientific naming. So this is a branch of biology we call taxonomy. It's a biological science which deals with the identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. One of the functions of the taxonomist or systematist is to provide a scientific name for every living creature. This is called scientific name. The need for uniform international system of naming is obvious. We know that. Because suppose you found something cat and you can give something like a billy. But the person who is in Europe, he doesn't know what the billy is because that person doesn't know Hindi, because every country has their own language. So we need to have a one common language that everyone can understand. So for that, this scientific name has been divided. Okay, so for example, the word that we know is goraya. Goraya is in Hindi, isn't it? Pakistan is also known by different names in other countries. So for an example, we say sparrow in the England, pardan in Spain, musk in Holland. All these are, this is the same species but different names. Suzun in Japan and so on. Dog in Hindi we call kutta na, kukur in Bangla, nai in Tamil. These names are not understood elsewhere. Everyone cannot understand them in China or any other country. Moreover, the same common name may be used for different kind of animals. For an example, quechua is also used for earthworm as well as ascaris, but both are different actually. It is therefore important to have a single scientific name to be followed all over the world. That's the main reason why we need. Okay, so these are the few names. Okay, it's interesting that you find out the scientific name of them, what you call rat, cat, bat, tiger, all this. It's a very interesting exercise. Okay, maybe you can find out when you get a little time. It's interesting. I will show you a few are there here, so that will help us. Let's understand how to name them. This is called binomial nomenclature. Okay, in biology every organism is given the two proper names. First name is the genes to which an organism belongs. Like we have also have na. What's your full name? Tell me.
Dhriti J.
Dhriti J. Correct. So what is Dhriti is a first name and J is what? It's a family name. It's a gene's name from where you have come out, isn't it? So same thing here. The gene's name to be shared among a number of other closely related organisms. Gene's name is similar to a person's surname, like we have. The organism shares this name with other member of its genes, just as we share our surname with other family. Okay, like your father name is also contains the same surname, mother also contains the same surname, but you all three are different creatures, isn't it? So an organism's second name is the name of the species to which it belongs. This name is specific to that organism in question, and the name is not shared with any other organism in that. So scientific names are unique, understood and followed all over the world. We cannot change them easily because they are controlled by International Code of Biological Nomenclature. Okay, we call ICBN. ICBN, International Code of Biological Nomenclature. Okay, so this is how they are named. As per convention, the gene's name is always written first. It is a first letter capital. Species name is written after the gene's name and its first letter is always in a small case. That's the tradition that they have put together. Both names of individual are printed in italics. We generally print in italics. When handwritten, both names are underlined. That is the way we should write them. For an example, frog, we call Rana tigrina. This is the name of frog. Rana is a genus, tigrina is a species. Both names are usually Latin names and have Latin endings. One may question that why it is necessary to use a dead language to refer to organisms. Why not use English language, Hindi, French, Russian? Okay. The reason is Latin is hold, okay, over from the times when a scholar communicated in this tongue. Latin is a very old language. That's why you see many words in the science, in the math, they have come from Latin, Greek. Very few words are there from French. Okay, French, German, very few words. Holdover means to remain beyond the expected time, like it's a very old. In order to distinguish each kind of organism in language that is precise, uniform and understandable to investigator throughout the world, a formal system of Latin nomenclature has been used. Okay, that's the main reason. Clear? This is the way. That's how we give them the name. Focus on why we do that. Okay, and what is like what and how after that. Are you getting?
Yes, sir.
Ah. So now let's go back to the further. If you divide our, so according to this nomenclature, okay, according to this nomenclature, if we put the name, okay, the loin's full name is basically the Panthera leo. Panthera is the genus name and Leo is the species name. However, the genus Panthera also includes several animals such as tiger, leopard. Tiger proper name is, okay, so this is the Panthera. Tiger name will be Panthera tigris. Leopard is Panthera pardus. Snow leopard is Panthera ansia. All are from the same Panthera only. Panthera is the genus. So the scientific name of human species is a Homo sapiens. We know that. Homo is a generic name. Sapien is a specific name. Okay. Now, since this system of naming convention include organism with two names, it is known as binomial nomenclature. Binomial means two it contains. Okay. It was developed and first of all used in the naming plants and animals by Linnaeus in his book entitled Species Plantarum, which was published around in 1753. Okay, it's a very interesting book. I have just only seen few pages, not in detail. Okay, because uh, not so much. I am not so much into this classification. So the people who are very good in classification, okay, they can go through that. So Linnaeus has been considered as the father of taxonomy. He is considered. Sometimes this question comes: who is the father of taxonomy? Taxonomy means categorization. He is the father of taxonomy because he developed the binomial system of nomenclature and system of classification. See, dividing all these species into the proper category is not a so easy task, and we will discuss why it is not so easy task. 1.5 million, correct? Dividing them, oh my god, first understand all their characteristics, put them together. It's not an easy task. It's a very difficult task to do that. Now we will discuss how they classified actually. What was the basis? So diversity shown among present day living organism is an outcome of the past 3.5 billion years of organic evolution. Every day evolution is happening. We are getting the news like corona is getting evolved. Every day it is showing a new symptoms. It is getting evolved. See, it's just a few days. And our generation is lying, or all these organisms are lying from so million years on the earth. So during this time, a great number of new species originated, many more became extinct. Science of paleontology studies evidences of past life in the form of fossils. So paleontologists, they study about them, which are the species, what they did, how they did, all those things. With such a huge repository of organism, it would always be impossible to study each and every living organism separately at an individual level, because we don't have so much time. We will not live for so billions of years. So study the diversity among living organism in an effective way. We need to arrange various kind of organism in an orderly or systematic manner. Okay, in a proper order we need to arrange them and then understand them. Okay, and then help others to learn about them. So this we call is the classification. What is the classification? Is method of arranging organism into groups or sets on the basis of similarity and differences is called classification. Okay, like we also classify the people here who are living in tower 9, they are a one category, tower 8 one category, tower 7 one category, like that. So this is a tower wise classification. Then we can sometimes also do, for an example, people who are younger, people who are older, that is a one way of classification. So classification we can do by many ways. So similarity and differences of organisms show their relationship. In fact, to understand the living world, there is no need to know every single detail of all organisms, isn't it? In order to understand that what is fish, we need not to understand that how many bones are there in the fish. We need not to know that. Okay, just by a normal structure is sufficient enough. Studying only a few representatives from each group will give us an idea of that member. And that's what we are interested in currently. So importance of classification, why we want to classify them. So science of classification, we know it's a taxonomy. It is an important branch of biological science. Classification has following advantage. Classification makes the study of wide organism very easy. It projects a picture in front of us that what are the life forms available on the earth, all kind of life forms. Classification is essential to understand the relationship among all these organisms, and it forms the basis for the development of other biological sciences. Okay, for an example, biogeography, which is the study of geographical distribution of plants. It's a mix biogeography, how these plants and animals are geographically distributed. Okay, it's totally dependent on the information supplied by classification. That's the basically view. So the taxonomy or systematic, what it is, sometimes they may ask what is taxonomy, systematics, or what is classification. We can understand this definition. Okay, it is the study of diversity and kind of organism and evolutionary relationship among them. It includes a naming, arrangement into the classification, examination of their origin, history. Systematic biologist, whoever the biologists are, what they do, they tend to deal with information that can be obtained from the museum, from the life history studies, cytology, biochemistry, physiology. From all this, they acquire all this information, okay, and then they develop certain classification, and then they tell, okay, this you will put in this bucket, this you put in this bucket, like that they do the classification. So this is our first step. Second step is doing the classification. It is a systematic arrangement, arranging the different species into the groups, okay, according to their likeness, differences, we call classification. Correct? You understood what is classification, why we need it, what are the advantage. That's what we are dealing here. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's understand how to classify them. Okay, what are the characteristics? How do we classify? It's not an easy task. Okay, living things are identified and categorized on the basis of their body design, how they look like, in relationship to their form and function. Okay, some characteristics are likely to be more wide ranging changes in the body design. Okay, so characteristics that came into the existence earlier are likely to be more fundamental. So the question comes, earlier, how do we categorize all these species? That's the problem. Should we categorize based on height? Should we categorize based on how they look? Should we categorize how many inside structures are there? Like, do they have a heart? Do they have kidney? What kind of this? Like, what should be the criteria? Because there are so many things are there, isn't it? So the classification of a life forms is closely related to the evolution. Okay, now if you talk about evolution, most life forms that we see today has arisen by the accumulation of changes in its body design that allows the organism possessing them to survive better. See why we evolve, so that we can survive better. Survival of the fittest, that is the fundamental rule in the nature. Only or the organism can survive, okay, who can evolve themselves for the with respect to the environment. So there was a scientist called Charles Darwin, very very famous. He has written many books. We call Darwin Theory. Also he has written, which is very famous. The first described the idea of evolution in this called Origin of Species around 1839. So in 1985, the Ernst Mayr of Harvard University is in US. It's a very famous university, argued that the Darwinism should be viewed as a five major theories. Okay, so Darwin, whatever has given, we should look that into the five different ways. What is the five ways? First one we call perpetual change. What is the meaning of perpetual? This is the basic theory of evolution on which other theories are based. It states that living world is neither constant nor perpetually cycling, but it is always changes. We say na, sometimes change is the only thing which is constant in the nature. Everything in this world is changing every second, isn't it? Whoever can adapt that change, they will go with the nature, otherwise they will be lacking behind and finally will die. Same thing. See, around 150 years before, this scientist clearly told like this, that change is not a world is not a constant, it is continuously changing, always changes. Okay, so what is the meaning? That all these organisms which are there, they are going continuous transformation. Okay, with the time, their generations is keep changing. So if we, like in every perspective, if you talk about intellect, okay, if you talk about this generation is more intellect than previous one was more intellect than the previous to previous. So it's a keeps on going, it's a continuous evolution. Next thing he told, the second Darwinian theory, common descent, stated that all the life forms descended from the common ancestor through a branching of lineage. What is the meaning? If you talk about a tree, this is the tree is there. In this tree, you have the one branch, two branch, three branch. There are so many branches are there. And on these branches are leaves, fruits, all these things are coming. If you talk about all these branches, fruits, they have come from the same tree. That means their roots are exactly same. They have come from same. So they have the common descent. Even though we all are different, we look different, we behave different, but we all have come from same ancestors. Okay, if we go, that's why if you see our religions, they if you say apple and like Adam and Eve, okay, we originated. Few says like okay, science says something else. Few says there were two people from which the life evolved. So that means the meaning of all of them. Okay, we are not so much interested that how we came. We are interested that we came from the common source. We all have the common source. So our all ancestors were one. That was the common thought. Multiplication of species. Darwin theory says that evolutionary process produces new species by the splitting and transformation of the older ones. We get a new species sometimes, okay, readily new. Like for an example, this corona, it is a new. It was not there earlier. It's a completely new. And few are transforming automatically like a mosquito. Earlier mosquito and now mosquito is completely different. It has evolved, it has acquired, okay, certain characteristic so that it can sustain all those odomos and other things. Nowadays you see, if you bring that what do you call mosquito coil, mosquito sitting only on that and saying hi, it doesn't matter to me now, I am immune. Correct? This is another characteristic. Amazing. Another is a gradualism. What is gradualism is? Gradualism states that the large differences in anatomical traits that characterize different species originate through the accumulation of many small incremental changes over a period of time. What is the meaning? It says you acquire certain traits, certain characteristic gradually. It doesn't happen over a period of fraction of second. For an example, from this to this, we took so many years. It happens slowly, 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 slowly. So this is a gradual process. In the nature, if you see, everything happens gradual. If you put a seed, next day you don't get a fruit. It takes some days, some month, sometimes years. It's a gradual process. Correct? This is the fourth fundamental of Darwin. And the last one we call natural selection. It's very important. Natural selection is the Darwin's most famous theory. It rests on three propositions. There is variation among organisms within the population for anatomical behavior and psychological traits. The meaning of that, if you see like a pig, okay, when the pig actually give the birth to children's, at least you get a 12 to 14 children in a single shot. 12 to 14 children, sometimes more than that also, all are taking birth together. Okay, they all are different. They are not, or in some minute differences are there, but there is a difference. They look same, but inside their structure, something is slightly different. Traits are different, behavior is different. Now, the variation is at least partly heritable so that the offspring tends to resemble their parents. Since whenever they give a birth, they also look like a pig. That means their characteristics have come from the parents only. Okay. But only out of 12, 14, many get died and few only survives. Question is why? Only those survive which can sustain the environment. Okay, that means which will survive will be decided by the nature we call natural selection. So organism with different variant form leave different number of offspring to future generation, and in between the few will die. So the meaning of that is nature decides who will live and who will die based on what? According to the compatibility with the nature. If you are able to adjust yourself according to the nature requirement, you will survive. If you can't, you will die. Simple. So nature decide that whether you can survive or not. Are you getting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the basically 5 idea of Ernst Mayr based on the Darwin theory. Now, if the idea of evolution is connected to the classification, it becomes apparent that some groups of organisms with ancient body design have not changed much. There are other groups of organisms that have evolved their current body design relatively recently. So those, if you see in the first group, ancient body design are commonly known as primitive. So that means there are two kinds of groups are there. One we call primitive. Primitive means whose design, body design, structure, everything is same as was earlier. They haven't changed. and there's a second category we call advanced or higher. They have evolved with the time. Okay, in simple words, the first one we call are the simple compounds, simple organisms. Other ones, second one we call complex compound, okay, or the modern compounds or the modern organisms, because their design is a little complex. They can change themselves, they can evolve themselves. That's the reason. Okay, so this is basically the Darwin told that how in the nature so many species are there. See, the first thing is to understand why these species are there and then start classifying them. Now let's understand how this classification is started. It's a very interesting story. Okay, like we can learn like a story, but it actually happened. So if you talk about the story, started around Aristotle, who was like a philosopher. Okay, Aristotle has done so many things in the science, also in the physics also he has given. uh, so Aristotle, he started doing the classification of this, and then this was Theophrastus. They were both from the Greek. They started doing. Okay, early system was artificial, like they were based on few chosen, like a size, color, nature of this organism. Based on this they classified, like Aristotle classified living organism based on the nature. He divided animals according to whether they lived on land, sea or air. So he told, okay, you are on living on land, then you are in one category. If you are living on air, you are in another category. So there are three categories he divided. Similarly, Theophrastus categorized all known plants on the basis of their form, lifespan, and habitat. Where they are living, what is their lifespan, what is their form. He grouped into four different categories: trees, shrubs, undershrubs, herbs. This we learn in geography, na, sometimes. Trees, shrubs, herbs, all those things. Correct? This was categorized by Theophrastus. Now, later, see, the question comes why there is a problem in this. So, if you see on the land, if you see tiger also stay, and land, Dhriti also stay. So, can we say Dhriti and tiger are same? Can we put them in the same category? Is that a correct classification? What do you think?
So I think you can. Mammals.
Okay, so that means from tomorrow we will put a tiger in your home. Is that okay? Hmm.
No, sir, not like that, but
Yeah. Because if they are same uh, same kind of a species, then they can live together. They have the similar characteristic. No, they are not similar. Even though they are living on the land, that means this categorization is not so much effective. Something is missing. We do understand like they are the living on the land, but we can't say like a tiger looks like us, because tiger cannot dance. We can dance. Correct? We can say Pappu can't dance Sala. Tiger cannot dance. But we can. So that means there is some problem. After that, the Swedish scientist came, Carl von Linnaeus, that we discussed previously also. He published a book in 1735 called Systema Naturae. That means classification of nature. He has worked a lot on this classification. That's why we call him father of taxonomy. So he classified, described and named plants and animals and minerals. He based his classification scheme on the sexual characteristic of living organism. Okay, sexual characteristic, number and arrangement of stamen and carpel in the flower, like how many stamen are there, how they are arranged actually, carpel. Thus his classification was an artificial classification. Artificial means we have done that classification. Okay, so this is basically one kind of categorization done. Now later what happened that in the 19th century, the artificial system of classification was replaced by natural system of classification. What's the meaning? New system was based on natural affinities between living organism and indicated overall similarity and difference. Like naturally, because this one, like a sexual characteristic, you will put on a piece of paper. You need to find that out. What is the characteristic and then map them, isn't it? but we are not considering the behavior. So we cannot put, let's say, there is a one girl called Dhriti, and there is a one more girl called, okay, like we learn in our scripture called Supadkha, correct, in Ramayana. Let's say if you compare, let's say we have a Dhriti and we have a one more girl called Supadkha, okay, can we say like both are the females, they are the same species, they are the same, everything same, they are the same, can we put them in a same bucket? No, we can't put, because this this lady was having some supernatural power. This was from the family of Daman, okay. She has the habit of eating people, destroying the things, but Dhriti doesn't have that. That means there is some dissimilarities are there. Now we need to put together in a same category somehow. We need to categorize in such a way that most of their characteristic. That's why whenever the people who, like for an example, when you go to the new school, do you make a friend, anyone as a friend, or like whichever shows the too many similarity lies like you, with whom you get gel with? What do you do actually?
So, whom we have a lot of things in common, we
Correct, correct,
become friends.
correct, correct, correct. So Sam, that means we cannot put them together. That means there is something missing. That's why we got a natural system. Okay, so this is little bit about the Carl Linus is given. We will move on. So based on this, what happened? Classification system. Living organism be classified variously according to different criteria. Okay. However, the two systems are more frequent. First system is a two kingdom system. The difference between the plants and animals, we are very clear. Plants are different, animals are different. Plants are stationary, fixed, they trap radiant energy, they are autotrophs because they make their own food. Some plants even grow indefinitely, they keep on growing forever. Animals generally move, eat plants or animals, they are not autotroph, they are heterotroph, and their bodies stop growing after attaining a certain size. That means this is a clear demarcation. Okay, so based on characteristics, in fact the plant cells are surrounded by the cell wall, we know that, and chloroplast to prepare their own food. Animal cell does not have a cell wall and nor the chloroplasta. Because of this, what we did, because of these basic differences, we divided into the two category: plant kingdom, animal kingdom. These are the two categories have been divided. This system was classification was suggested by Carolus Linnaeus in 1758, that we can categorize every single organism in the world, okay, into two categories: plants and animals. Now the problem was here again, problem started happening here is taxonomist who actually categorized them. Certain organisms did not strictly fit under plant kingdom or animal kingdom. We were not able to fit them. Accordingly, a German zoologist called E.H. Haeckel raised a third kingdom we call Protista, okay, for unicellular organisms. When significant difference became evident among the protists, an American ecologist, Whitaker, proposed a fourth kingdom called Monera for the bacteria because they are different from this Protista, which are prokaryotes whereas there are eukaryotes. And the fifth kingdom, fungi, for the fungi which lack chlorophyll and obtain their food. Okay, so finally what happens, we got five kingdom system of classification. This was presented by Whitaker in 1959. See, this is like a less than 100 years old. Okay, hardly some 60 years old approximately. Yes. So what are the kingdoms? We have these four kingdoms: kingdom Monera, Protesta, fungi, plantae, animals. What is Monera? Prokaryotic and blue-green algae. Protista, unicellular, multinucleate, multicellular. This is also multi. This is the plants and this is the animal. Getting? I am asking.
So,
Okay. So this is how the categorization has been done. We can see like, so chemical evolution. So finally we got this is a Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae, animal. Whitaker has based, now question comes, what is the criteria on which this classification has been divided? So it has been divided on the three levels of organization. The first one is prokaryotic versus eukaryotic, like what kind of cells you have. Okay, structure of cells. Second thing is unicellular versus multicellular or multinucleate, what kind of organisms you have. Okay, one kind of cell, many kind of cells. And the third thing is three different modes of nutrition: photosynthesis, absorption from environment, or ingestion. Okay, so these were the three main criteria. Based on this categorization has been done. Okay, it is not based on how you look, color, size, shape. No. So sometimes this question comes, Whitaker classification was based on what are the three criteria? These are the three criteria: prokaryotic versus eukaryotic, unicellular versus multicellular, okay, and type of nutrition, autotroph, heterotroph, which kind of thing are they, correct? Now, Carl Boos in 1977 further divided kingdom Monera into two parts. This Monera got further divided into two. We call archbacteria and eubacteria. We will discuss what are those, okay, in detail. Now, modern scheme of five kingdom classification. In 1982, see, this story is still going. Margulis and Swartz revised the five kingdom classification. It includes one prokaryotic kingdom. Prokaryotic kingdom. The prokaryote and the four eukaryote kingdom are this: the Protista, fungi, plantae, animal. Okay, this scheme is widely accepted one. The eukaryote can be regarded as belonging to super kingdom, the eukaryote. We will come to that down the line. Okay, now next thing is one group of organism that does not fit neatly into any classification scheme is called a virus, which we already know is killing us as of now. Viruses are extremely small particle consisting of only a piece of genetic material, DNA or RNA, in a protective coat of protein. Okay, they do not have cellular structure unlike all organisms. They can only reproduce by invading living cells. They are dead, okay, if they are alone. But once they go into our body, they make our body as a host and then they start reproducing. So it's a separate category basically. So that's why we don't have so much knowledge on virus and we are struggling to make the antidote as of now. The smallest organisms are often collectively known as microorganism. All kind of thing. This includes archaea, bacteria, prokaryotes, virus, fungi, protist. These grouping are used for practical reason because techniques used in their study are often similar because they are very smallest. Microscope is needed to understand them. Okay, to sterilize them. The study of microorganism forms a branch of biology called microbiology, where all these are learnt in detail: virus, bacteria, archbacteria, and all those things. Okay, this is basically the reason. Clear? Are you getting?
Yes, sir.
So I think let's pause here. Okay, so let's continue this study over tomorrow.